Hey team, you're about to experience my interview with Dean Salakas. Dean is the founder and chief party dude of the Party People. The Party People is a party supplies retailer based in Australia, and Dean is now working on a completely new game-changing technology for physical retailers. This is virtual try-on screens for physical retailers that have things like clothing and costumes as he does that guests want to see in what it will look like on them before they make a purchase. He's building this from the ground up with his amazing team, and I think it's going to be some incredible game-changing technology. I had a fantastic interview with him, and I think you're going to enjoy it. This is the E-commerce Edge podcast with your host, Jason Greenwood. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the pod. It is my absolute pleasure to bring to you today Dean Salakas from Party People in Australia. Welcome, Dean.
G'day, how are you going?
Mate, I don't want to come across as too much of a fanboy here, but I have to say, I was mentioning off air that, look, I've been following you for a hell of a long time, man. You're definitely super, super well known in the e-commerce space in ANZ. You speak at a lot of conferences, you attend a lot of events, you drive a lot of events. Your products end up at a lot of events because of the space that you play in. And so, Look, I've been following you for a long time, and I have been looking forward to this conversation for a long time.
No, likewise. Obviously, we've even had a few little online chats here and there over the years, but never really met. So the feeling's mutual for sure.
Oh, well, thank you. I super appreciate that. And we were talking off air about how I think we both have a mutual curiosity. We've never lost that sort of childlike curiosity in our industry. And I think that's what served us maybe the best. Sure, maybe we've got some entrepreneurial skills, maybe we've got some business skills, but I think for me, the thing that I've tried to never lose is that genuine sense of wonder and curiosity about all the things that drive our industry forward, and the new tech, the new ideas, the new concepts, the new target markets, the new products that we can bring out into the world, and a new way of serving people and presenting new experiential retail experiences. And there's just so much going on, and there always has been. And I think it's that natural sense of curiosity that has served probably both of us quite well.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely, we're speaking from the same playbook, right? Yeah, 100% agree. I love learning from people. It's why I do what I do. It's why I go to conferences. It's why I speak on stage. I love sharing. I love learning. I love the industry. So I just really enjoy the whole sort of ecosystem that comes with it. And I really love this industry, and it's a real lot of fun. So I just enjoy the whole process of all that sort of stuff. And 100%. I get the same reason I'm here talking to you. I just love sharing the story. And if I can get any people value, I really love that. I love when people hit me up and say, hey, I heard you on that podcast and I picked up that little gold nugget and I used that. Or I love hearing those things. It's awesome.
And we were also talking about the fact that when we do go to events and we're in person, the in-person vibe with other human beings is just completely irreplaceable by digital media as of today. And when you sit down and you're merchant to merchant at a round table and you're hearing stories, and people are oftentimes a lot more open book when they're in person than maybe when they're on a podcast or maybe when they're on a Zoom call, whatever the case may be. It feels like people are just super willing to share in our industry. Okay, here's what the trials and tribulations of the last 6 months were. Oh, we were going through a replatform of our e-commerce platform. Oh, we did this new thing with our ERP and it was a nightmare, or it turned out amazing, or we would do it differently this way. It just feels like that human connection in our industry really is what makes our world turn.
It is. And I think I think it keeps getting understated how valuable networking is. So much of what I do and what I learn, and it comes from networking. We go to events and I speak. I don't speak because the primary goal is not because I want to share knowledge. That is a main part of it, but it's not the primary goal. The primary goal when I go to these conferences is to network and to speak to people. And that's where I get the most value. I think you were mentioning that you don't get as much from the speakers, you get more from the networking. And I 100% agree. I go into these things and like you said, I'm looking at a replatform at the moment. To be able to pick up the phone to 10 retailers and say, how did you go with this and that? I would never, even if I spent whatever it took to get the answers, I'll probably never get the intel that I need to make the most informed decision. Whereas being able to pick up the phone to people who have real experience with what I'm looking at, you can't buy that. And and then you can't even get that from an advisor. That is invaluable. The networking is just the most important to me. And I have a great retail network. As you see, when I post stuff on LinkedIn, all my retail friends jump in and I love that. I love the whole thing. And likewise, I'm on LinkedIn and I'm jumping on their posts and seeing what they're doing and created a real good friendship group and network. And like you said, the industry really, it wasn't really difficult for me to do that. The industry is very open and sharing. Quite bizarrely, a contrast to say bricks and mortar traditional retailers. You go into talking a few years back, but I went to an event with a bricks and mortar event and the event finished and everyone went home. Yet every e-commerce event I go to, straight after the event, everyone's like, where are we going for drinks? And let's go for coffee, let's go for lunch.
Go for dinner, everything.
Let's go for dinner, let's catch up and chat, let's learn from each other. So there's definitely a few years ago, there was that big contrast in events that you'd go to even. And I love that about the e-commerce industry. It's very collaborative and sharing. We all share the same problems. We might be I'm from party and someone's from fashion, but yet we can learn a hell of a lot from each other. And I love that about this industry.
And I think that's the challenge, actually, that a lot of vendors are facing, is that a lot of vendors, a lot of partners, a lot of agencies, a lot of consultants, they're all really struggling in some respects because the old ways of doing business have just fundamentally shifted. Not only has the consumer shifted online, but the rise of dark social, personal branding, personal networks, things like that. People are doing their own research. They're not necessarily going to G2 anymore. They're not necessarily going to Product Hunt anymore. They're not necessarily going and getting 5 demos from 5 different vendors before they've spoken to their network. They're actually doing a lot more peer-to-peer communication in dark social channels, Slack channels, there's Telegram groups, there's WhatsApp groups. There is just so many opportunities for merchants to talk directly to one another with no mediator in between them. Even what I see on LinkedIn messages, 2 or 3 people will jump together into a LinkedIn direct messaging thread and say, hey, I think you should meet this person. They've just gone through a re-platform. I think they'd be super helpful with the experience they've just had. So I feel like dark social has given rise to these peer group networks that mean that you're not as subject to the spin of the vendors, the technology partners, the agencies. Really, we're getting the from the trenches feedback. Now, admittedly, that's through one lens or 2 lenses. And so maybe they don't have the full picture. And there is ultimately some, survivor bias or failure bias or whatever it might be in those groups by definition. But I think that just in order to be able to get a much more 360-degree view on what you're doing or what you're trying to achieve, that now doesn't go through gatekeepers like it used to.
No, 100%. When I go to a conference and I meet a new vendor or even just a service provider hit me up, my first question is who you're working with. And obviously, like I've got a network, quite a substantial network. So I almost always know someone that they're working with. And I pick up the phone straight away. That's the first thing I want to do is I want to find out who they're working with and find out what experience they had. So you're right. The whole sales thing is just not even first on my radar. It's okay. The first thing I think about in my head is I want to call them straight up. It literally goes into my brain. I'm like, oh, I saw that logo there on your poster. Cool. I want to call it. That's the first thing I want to do. I want to call them and say, what is this? Do you like that? I want to ask a retailer. I don't want to ask a service provider. Even when we're speaking, as you mentioned, I do a lot of speaking. I guess one of the reasons I speak and is maybe not necessarily because my content's any better. I'd like to think it is, but it's a lot about perception from the person listening, because I know when I'm sitting in the crowd and a service provider's up there, let's say they're talking about, let's say they're an email provider, they provide email marketing or whatever, and they're up there talking about best practice in email. I'm naturally suspicious that they're going to tell me all the best practice things that their solution just so happens to have. I'm naturally suspicious, where if a retailer's up there talking, I'm more interested, I'm more engaged. I'm not like straight away suspicious and skeptical straight off the bat. I'm more open to what they're talking about. And so I think that going down the thread of what you're talking about there, us retailers want to talk to other retailers to get the insights, not so much from the social. That doesn't mean the service providers can't provide value. They have insight across the industry that's a larger data pool that they can pull from to give us best practice. So there's certainly value there, but we also do take it with a grain of salt because
they got a barrel to put at the end of the day.
That's right. That's right.
And look, I think that also what has also changed is the fact that with the rise of SaaS and the ability to do free trials, the ability to to do a test drive of a platform for 30 days, I think the ability to try out these platforms, to have customer success engagement within those vendors and those technologies long before you ever pay $1, that has become a lot more common as well. And so I don't necessarily have to go through a BDR, a BDM, an SDR, an AE. I don't necessarily have to go through any of those people to try this solution out for 30 days. Now, obviously, enterprise class software is a little bit different, but usually there's some form of trial that you can do. And you can say, look, you're saying one thing, and you might, for example, be saying, oh, the admin is super friendly and anybody can use it and your marketing team will crush this. Then when I get in there, is it actually easy to use? Is it foolproof? Is it idiot proof? Does it have playbooks? Does it have design patterns that I can use straight out of the box? Do the integrations play nice with each other like you say that they do? So I think the ability to test and learn now at very low cost and low risk has also completely transformed our industry, particularly in the last decade. Would you say that's a part of it too?
Oh, 100%. I mean, we haven't probably talked about our history, but I launched online in 1999. So I've been around it a long time. And yeah, in those days, you would go to I started out with that strategy around give me a free trial type thing. But back then it was a hard sell. You'd go to a software vendor and say, I want to give this a go. I want to try this out. They'd be like, signed for 12 months. That's the minimum we can do. And you'd be like, can't I just try it? And nah, can't do that. And I'd say, the other strategy I'd go with, I'd say, why don't you install it for me? I don't want to spend my dev team doing it. You put it on my test environment for me and I'll take that cost out of my equation and I can test it there and I can have a look at it. And they'd say no. And over time, the people that did say yes to those things, obviously I'd say, oh, well, then no risk, let's give it a go. And then you'd sign 3/4 of those things up. And people, I think those software vendors, the smarter ones, even today, still not everyone does it, but the smarter ones are like, look, let's take the risk. Yeah, we might install 100 times but we'll make 75% of the sales out of it. And that's still a win. Yeah, we might have 25% that we spend all this time and energy onboarding them and they walk away. But the ones that realize that you've got to you've got to remove that barrier to entry or to trial for the retailer are the ones that are really smashing it in terms of their hockey stick curve in sales and all that, because they're just going at it. But I'm flabbergasted. Still some vendors don't do it today. They still want you to sign a 12 months. I can't understand it.
Or they make you jump through a million hoops. And I still get this even now as a consultant. I need to understand how technology works so that I can position it correctly, not just from a technical perspective, an architectural perspective, but also from a cost perspective. I need to be able, from a commercial perspective, I need to be able to position the right solutions in the right user and merchant scenarios. And I can't do that unless someone spends the time with me to walk through the architecture of their platform, how it works, how it fits into the rest of the stack, how it integrates, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And there are still some vendors that I reach out to and I'm like, hey, I have this opportunity that feels like it might be a really good fit for your platform, but I need to spend probably an hour to an hour and a half with like your tech team or your CTO or somebody senior in your technology team so I can really understand this at a granular level. And I'd say 75% of them say yes, but there's at least 25% of them that say no. When there's a real commercial opportunity and they're on the cusp of signing, reach out, tell us exactly who that merchant is. We'll engage with them directly. We'll keep you in the loop. And it's just, oh my God, like this is just so, you're making this so difficult to do business with you. Why, if you're making it this hard for me as a partner to do business with you, how hard is it going to be for the merchant to do business with you? I just walk away. It's insanity.
Yeah, it happened with buy now, pay later for me, actually. Like I would have been the first merchant to sign up to Afterpay, or second merchant to sign up to Afterpay if they had have said, yes, we'll install it. Because that's what I said to them. I said, hey, will you install it? They said, no, you do it. And I'm like, you're new. I don't want to go through all this pain.
That's a huge risk and time for
so I was like,
no gain.
And then 3 months later, ZipPay came along and I said, hey, I've had this conversation. This is what I want. They said, yeah, sure, we'll do it. We'll install it for you and we'll show you it working and we'll get it rolling. And I'm like, let's do it. Yeah, and it was done. It was that simple. That's all they needed to say to get me across the line. It was really uncomplicated for me. It was like, I get the concept. I understand it. I like the idea. I want to test it. Don't make me pay money to put it in. You put it in, I'm paying you on a transaction fee basis. I'm happy with that. I didn't even, I'll be honest. I don't even care if the transaction fee was higher, as long as the barrier is lower. And they said, here's the deal. And I said, that sounds good. Let's do it. And we did it. And we'll become one of the early ZipPay merchants. But that was the difference in the approach. And yeah, it was quite interesting. And that's happened in a lot of different areas. I've had the same experience.
And it probably brings us full circle to some of the things that we talked about via LinkedIn recently and some of your AR technology and what you guys are doing that's pretty groundbreaking with effectively a smart mirror. And because you're in the party space and because you deal with a lot of costumes for a lot of events, Halloween, Valentine's Day, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you deal in an area where people like to imagine what a costume, for example, might look on them before they buy, before they spend the money, right? And usually when you go into a costume store or a party store that sells costumes, they don't even let you literally remove the costume from the packaging. Otherwise, you then own it, right? So you definitely can't try it on in store. You definitely can't remove it from the packaging. And if you do, you own the thing, whether it ultimately looks good on you or not. And so it feels like you're bridging the gap for your own customers by saying, look, this is effectively a try before you buy scenario. And this is going to remove the barrier to entry for you guys to purchase through us. And so maybe just talk to us a little bit about the technology that you're bringing to the table and the technology that is ultimately revitalizing, or not revitalizing, but it's definitely revolutionizing what is an industry that's been around. You've been doing this for nearly 20 years. So the party industry and costuming, and the costuming space, that's been around for bloody ever.
Yeah, costumes have obviously evolved in itself. Back in the 80s, you would hire a costume, you wouldn't buy it. And these days, you don't, I don't know if there's any hire companies left anymore.
So except for the really exotic costumes, right? That maybe came from a movie set or something.
Even then, well, we sell them and they're $500-600 or whatever, and they're pretty epic. But still, even to hire that, it's just, hire doesn't make sense anymore, really. I even think for those costumes, by the time they dry clean, fix any, when you go to a party, if you're walking around and you haven't damaged the costume, you haven't gone hard enough, in my opinion.
Correct. I totally agree.
So if you haven't ruined the costume, but also I'd say there's a contrast between the US and Australia. I've seen Party City. I've had some back office and front office tours there, and I've seen it quite intimately. There's quite a big contrast in the US. Like you said, they don't take it out of the packet. They've got a wall of pictures and that's how it works. Here in Australia, I wouldn't say many do allow try on, but I do in my stores. I do allow customers to try it on in a physical change room. So there is a bit of a contrast there. We do things a little bit different to Party City. I'd say, yeah, I mean, this may be arrogant of me to say, but I would say that Party City have grown so big that they've standardized things and kept it simple rather than being as customer focused as they probably should. And that's things I notice because I go in there and think, how do they not do this better than us? They're so much bigger. I'm like, I'd ask them questions like, why don't you, if the customer wants to put the happy birthday balloon on top, do you allow that? How do they decide that? No, they can't. They just pick the balloons and we put it together how we want. And it's like, how is that customer focused? I don't get it. But anyway, that's beside the point. The fact is there is differences in costumes between Australia and America. But back to the mirror, I feel like that leverages the opportunity in America even bigger for us. And we are looking to the UK or US at the moment with this technology, mainly because the gap between what the consumer can do and what the mirror does is even bigger than it is here in Australia. Because I let them try it on. Right? You've probably seen Party City. They've got their wall with all their little pictures. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but that's how they do it.
My birthday is Halloween.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh,
and I'm originally from the States. So Halloween for me, it was a major disappointment when I first moved to New Zealand because I lived in New Zealand for almost 30 years. And Halloween is now starting to get to be a bigger deal. But when I first moved there, it just really didn't exist. It was not a thing. And so I moved from the States when I was in my early 20s to New Zealand. And I was kind of like, my birthday always in the States was like a big deal. It was always the biggest party day of the year. And the fact that it was my birthday was like doubly cool. And then I got to New Zealand and I was like, oh, this is so disappointing.
Yeah, I can imagine. So yeah, it is a bit like that. And I think this AR technology, look, I'm talking to you today and it's day 3 for us of having that. this is my first day at home. I've been working the last 2 weeks, like 40 hours. This is the most relaxing day I've had in weeks. And yeah, I've been working massive hours to get that live. So we got that live 3 days ago. We've got it popped up in a shopping mall. People could try on costumes. So I've done it standalone. It's not within my store. It's mirror stands alone. People can try costumes on through augmented reality and check out on the device. And it's still early days. Certainly, yeah, I see the interest from the retail community has been ridiculously huge. I'm just getting inundated with LinkedIn requests, and definitely the retail property groups. They've reached out to me, the big ones. You'd be able to guess what they are. They're the biggest of property groups in Australia and globally, really, have hit me up and said, we want to look at this technology. Retail chains have hit me up, fashion, toys even. There's a toy group said, oh, we can dress up as the character and sell the toy. And I'm like, yeah, we can do that. That sounds heaps cool. I love it. So look, yeah, just the interest in this has been huge from a retail perspective, like from a retail industry perspective. I'm hoping that the consumer response is similar. I'm definitely seeing, even these last 2 days, I've seen people using it and loving it. Kids love it. Kids all standing there going, oh, better on Elsa, and they're loving it. And just the interaction and the brand, the interaction with my brand is awesome so far. And I'm loving that side of it. But yeah, I'm really interested to see where this whole thing goes, because what I'm hearing from the retail community is they've seen mirrors before, they've seen augmented reality before, but they haven't seen them with checkout functionality. And that's a lot of the CTOs, that's what they're contacting me. Like, look, we've seen this, we've looked at it before, but we've never found someone who's done checkout. How have you done this? And that's where the conversation starts. And I think it's really exciting because it just creates all sorts of possibilities on channels, and it could exist within a store. It could exist as a pop-up. The one I love is you're setting up in the shopping center. They're doing the fit out and they've got the hoarding up, and they can stick it on the hoarding. You can interact with the brand and check out. I love the concept of we have this thing called window shopping, but we can't actually shop when you're looking in a window.
Yeah.
Where we can
Okay.
stick a
Why
mirror
not?
there, and you can actually shop now with the mirror. We can stick a mirror in a window, and you can purchase on the mirror. You can try it on in the mirror and check out. The store's closed, and you can still shop the store. So I'm loving all the ideas and stuff that's popping out, and the applications are just falling out of everywhere. And I think it's going to be the vibe I'm getting is this is the next big thing in retail. Whether that's the case or not, we've seen a few things that have proclaimed to be that and not actually gone that way. But yeah, it's been a real fun ride for the last 3 days in terms of launching and the response to it.
And the other cool thing I like is that this effectively merges the concept of a kiosk, like a shopping kiosk that you might get in a retail store or an ATM or whatever the case may be, a kiosk style experience with this magic mirror AR driven type of experience. And so for you, as far as I know, you correct me if I'm wrong here, because again, this is very early days. So even this is new to me. You partnered with Shandon over at Shop Experience, or ShopX, I think is what they call themselves, to help develop this experience. So they, as far as I understand, they provide the AR layer and they understand all the hardware underpinnings. And you've helped to bring the concept of the commerce piece to the magic mirror functionality. And obviously you're also, at the same time, you're effectively the guinea pig of the whole thing.
Yeah, 100%. I actually haven't communicated how it hangs together to anyone yet. And that's exactly how it hangs together. So you've interpreted that correctly. But yeah, I've really hacked innovation on this one itself. It's been an innovative approach to innovation, because when I first looked at this, I trialed the mirror 4 years ago. So I trialed augmented reality mirrors 4 years ago, and customers loved it, but I didn't have checkout on there, but customers loved playing with it. It was a great experience and all that sort of stuff. But again, the cost benefit was difficult to justify around. Customer experience is a real hard one to justify. And it was something we thought, look, it'd be great for store launches. It'd be great to kick things off, but ongoing may not have a place within the store because we have change rooms, and that ultimately is the better way to do it. Then we came up with this idea of putting a checkout on her, and I thought this is a cool idea. And I'm an entrepreneur, so I love new toys and new ideas, but I usually get excited for a couple of days, and I realize they're really bad ideas. But this is one of those ones that, I don't know. I think it's pretty cool. And then I spoke to people about it. They're like, oh, that would be awesome. And then I just got this vibe from everyone. This is cool. And then I started speaking with service providers about it, going, I'd love to do this project. It's going to cost me like 150 grand. So I don't think I'd ever spend the money, but it's pretty cool. They're like, oh, we'll help you out with that. We'll help you with this. We'll help you with that. We'll give you some money. Next thing I know, I've got the whole thing fully funded, and it took a life of its own, really. It was just something that started as a crazy idea because we have them all the time, us entrepreneurs, but it took a life of its own. It just, the interest from the industry was huge, and people just said, yeah, we'll help you with this. We want to do this. We want to see where this goes. We see potential. Each of the service providers that are involved they're not just they're partly involved because they're helping me with the innovation itself. There's potential for them. There's a whole new channel there that they've now pioneered with me. So yeah, so I've been able to pull together a bunch of key people, which one was ShopX. So they did the augmented reality component. Starship it, provide the shipping at the checkout option, and obviously then the fulfillment component of choosing the shipping provider. Then I've got stock in store. They really are the glue that hangs it all together in the back.
Folds in the inventory piece and everything else. Yeah.
So they
order management, routing, all that stuff.
All that stuff. They take care of all of that. So between all of that, and then obviously Lend-Lease gave me some space, and Uber's helping me out with delivery. By the time I put all that together, I've got a whole thing funded, and I've got a bunch of world-class, best-in-class technology partners as well in the whole project. So yeah, we pulled it together on a shoestring, and it's crazy. I just couldn't believe. I surprised myself. People are like, how'd you do this? I don't even know. I'm surprised myself that all these guys jumped on board, and everyone just believes in it. And it's just, it's taken on a life of its own. It's been really exciting.
What's funny is people talk about headless, but they never talk about what the head might be. And the reality is that kiosks are heads for commerce, right? Touchscreen televisions are heads for commerce. And basically anything, a touchscreen laptop is a head for commerce. Basically anything that you can turn into a shoppable experience becomes a head, right? It becomes a channel for e-commerce. But
I never thought of it that way, but you're right. Yeah.
And not a lot of brands have necessarily executed on that opportunity yet. They've still stuck with their kind of 2D website experience that's pretty bland and boring. Let's be honest. As much as we try to innovate, it's still a flat screen. It's still boring. It's non-interactive, and it's all about removing the friction, not increasing the engagement level. And so as a result of that, we have been left with retail experiences that are in large part pretty sterile, to be perfectly honest, both online and in store. They tend to have been quite sterilized down to how can we make this as efficient for us as a business to sell product, not how can we make this as engaging as possible for the potential customer. And I think that's where retail has lost its way to a certain degree, not everybody, but I think to a large degree, the vast majority of retail experiences I have today, which is why I shop online for 90% of my purchases, is because they're flipping boring. I walk in and they're totally sterile. They're totally boring. They got just standard racks of crap. They've got unhelpful people in there that don't really want you to be there. It's just painful. And then you've got to wait in a massive queue to check out. That's slowly changing with self-checkout. People are becoming used to the kiosk experience. Obviously, people like McDonald's have been cutting edge with that. They've been replacing people with kiosks in store. And I think it feels like there's a confluence of culture, shopper culture, that has now finally arrived at a place where people are starting to be ready to interact with the type of technology that you're building.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I got asked by a journalist this morning because I pitched to them about putting it in their thing. And they were like, this is not really e-commerce. What are you pitching to me? And I was like, really? You don't see it? Like I don't understand the question. Well, first of all, why does it matter? But second of all, it's a blur. It's a blur of the screen. Yeah, it's a physical experience, sure. But the whole back end is e-commerce. If you really want to get down to the nitty gritty, it's
just another digital channel.
It's just another digital channel. Like you said, it's a head. The head is the screen, sure. But there's a whole e-commerce back into it. And I think that's what makes it really exciting for me is that really it's easy to scale that. It's just my e-commerce back end fulfilling it. But then I was just to keep the fun going. I got an email as well from a technology provider that provides click and collect automation. And I was like, what the hell is click and collect automation? But think of it like you meant like a shipping container that's got robots inside it that picks the orders from inside the container. And then you could have a mirror on the front is where they were wanting to have a conversation. Just all the applications, I think, like you said, experiences are boring, but definitely retailers, the smarter retailers are suddenly realizing that experience is important. And it is the buzzword at the moment, customer experience. And
retail theater is becoming big again.
Theater. I had a real interesting conversation with one of my staff the other day about market stalls and the fact that I won't get into detail, but I was selling Lucky Dips at a market stall, and that outsold the bracelets. That was Lucky Dip bracelets. They had it in little Lucky Dip, and that outsold the bracelets to where all they're displayed. And it's that whole experience for the customer, getting a Lucky Dip, opening it up. What do I get?
It's almost like a raffle, and maybe I'll win something big, and who doesn't love a raffle and those kinds of things.
And so I think definitely the data is there to support that experience is super important, and it makes a difference. I'm sure many people have heard the case study of that they got people to taste teas, and one had a tea ceremony and one didn't, and people rated the teas didn't taste as well on the one that didn't have a tea ceremony. Like, experience is important. And I think, even like all us retailers, I think we forget that from time to time, and we really need to be reminded that the whole consumer interaction with your brand is critical, and it's what makes the difference between you and someone else.
I tell you, there's 4 retail experiences that I can think of immediately off the top of my head that are actually stand out to me. And this goes to show how few retailers probably get it. One's Nike and their experiential in-store, like with having the basketball court in-store, having the treadmills for proper running shoe fitting in-store, like the amount of in-store engagement. It's almost like a freaking carnival when you walk into a proper Nike store. That's the first thing. I'm a big Nike fan, not just of their product, but of their whole go-to-market and their D2C plan, just everything else. They are probably one of the least risk-averse retailers in the market, and they're just so big that they can execute on almost anything at will. And so injecting digital into physical experiences for them, they're just so good at it. I think the second one is Culture Kings in Australia has done such a good job of bringing theater. And Simon's amazing, cutting edge. I know obviously now it's big American owners now. Their in-store experience with DJs and having the action sport people come and sign autographs. And they've just done such amazing in-store theater to where shopping in store and actually spending money in store is almost secondary to a degree to some of the events and activities that they have in store on a regular basis, where you see the line literally around the mall to get in there. And then the final 2 experiences that have stood out to me as a consumer, one was tea and one was an oil and vinegar store. And both of these were in Pike's Place Market District in Washington State. And the one, they had a wall. My wife's Asian, and so we drink a lot of varieties of Asian teas in particular. And we walked into the store, and literally there was an entire wall. They had something like 600 teas on the wall. And again, so when we came in, they weren't like, oh, what kind of taste do you like? Whatever. They sat us down, and there was an Asian woman behind the counter that went with us through the 3 or 4 flavors that we wanted to try, a full-blown tea ceremony. And that was the process of trying the tea. Now, was there even a remote chance that we were going to walk out of that store without buying tea? No, there was just no chance, because we spent 30 minutes with this woman of personalized one-on-one. Like, she was zoned in on us. She was trying to create an absolutely loving, amazing experience. And so I think that's one thing. And then I've never
And I bet you buy that. I bet you buy that same tea over and over, right?
And literally, I would consider having it shipped from Washington if I couldn't find it locally, because the experience was so bloody amazing, and I would only get it from them, and I would buy it online from thereafter. And the other one was, I have never been to a store that sells premium grade olive oils and other oils and vinegar, flavored aged vinegars. And I've never been to a store that sells just that, and they have a tasting room for oils and vinegars. They actually had tankards, like stainless steel tankards with these little plastic cups, so you could go around almost like you would in a distillery for a spirit, or a cellar door, or a brewery. Like, when you go in, you can taste these different flavors and these different products, and then they have someone experienced walk you through the experience of what you're tasting. They did the exact same thing, but for olive oils and primarily different vinegars from different parts of the world. And so I think and again, I spent like a ridiculous, like more money than I would ever spend on like oils and vinegars. I spent hundreds of dollars in the shop, but it was purely because there was a sense of reciprocity, an obligatory reciprocity. When someone spends that much time with you and shows that much care and concern that you enjoy the experience, you felt completely obligated to walk out with something. You're not going to walk out empty-handed. If it just feels rude, right? But it's the experience that creates that.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So yeah, it's been fun so far. We're just watching and observing how people are using this mirror, because it is interesting. We've learned lots of things, and we don't have all day to go through it, but just interesting seeing how people interact. And it's just stuff like we're using it, we've been testing it, but how customers use it is completely different. And that's something that we're learning, because we've been using it for weeks now and playing with it. That has bias, and our thought process is different to the customer. And it's been real good to experiment and see how customers are using it.
And how are you tracking data? Because I'm sure a lot of merchants have that question. Is it like UTM tags? Is there something going on there that links the products that customers are interacting with there and the website? And obviously, you've got SKUs, you've got the catalog feed that has to come into the smart mirror, all that sort of stuff. And presumably, it's got to be net connected and it's updated in real time and all that sort of stuff. So it's got Wi-Fi built into it, all the rest. But from a technical perspective, what kind of data overlay or data capture is happening that then the retailer can use to refine the experience, to refine their catalog, and all those sorts of things?
Yeah, look, I would say we haven't built that out very well just yet. That, like, the checkout experience is Google integrated, so that we can track what's going on there and how that checkout. But the checkout experience is very much an e-commerce checkout, so it's going to follow generally what happens from an e-commerce point of view. The mirror itself, to be honest, it's more of physical observation, like me watching them. I sit in a coffee shop and I work. The last 2 days I've been sitting at a coffee shop nearby, working on my laptop and just watching interactions. And that we've got data there, working out what people are touching and all that, but it's too complicated. It's more about the mirror has a function where you can wave your hand, for example, and it changes the costume to the next one in the queue or the next one you have. But there's nowhere on the screen that it tells them that. But it's just one of those things when you're developing these things, you have blinkers on and you've put this feature in, you haven't actually explained it to the customer. So the customers are constantly standing there going back, new costume, forward. So I've got developers on site at the moment. So we are making almost real-time changes. Yeah, I'd say we're doing an update daily on the feedback from the day. So they're making the changes as they see it. So we might see, okay, that's swiping. We need to do something there. So they'll then go and code something, and then it's deployed the next morning. And so we're doing a lot of that at the moment, because just the pace of changes. It's too fast to even use the data we're getting. And then when we make the change, obviously the data is almost redundant, because we've changed the order of the screens as another, like we've just changed so much since day one, just from just seeing people use it and the problems they're having and the glitching and all sorts of fun. We've got shiny floors in the shopping center, which are playing havoc with the AR, the sensors,
screen recognition and the sensors. Yeah.
Even just fun things like we have to put a black mat down, like the fact that there's poor 4G reception just happens to be in the spot we've located, which again, we just had to find a way to boost signals, and all these little problems that you just don't expect to come along have come along. And we've had to come up with solutions to plug those gaps. And yeah, I wouldn't say we've got a heap of, we've got data, we've got heaps of data. We're just not using it, to be honest. More, it's just observation and seeing what people are doing and then adjusting and then start again. We've adjusted the screen flow. Let's see how they use it now. And kids are a great, in the fact that costumes are used by kids, they're a great litmus test as well, because they're not like adults that have learned how a website works intuitively. Their use case is completely different to our adults interacting with the screen. So there's fun stuff like that. We've talked about things like, there's one enhancement. I want to put a little fairy on the screen that flies around and tells them what to do. It's going to take a little more time. But there's stuff like that we're learning as we go on. Because we want to make this staffless. We want to make it that the mirror doesn't need us.
No one needs to just stand there and help guide them through the experience. Otherwise, what's the point?
That's the point. And I have left it there. I have left it there unattended, and customers are using it, which is cool. It's really an experimentation. I'm trying both. I had someone yesterday say, I walked past and there was no one there. It's, yeah, they went on their lunch break, but I didn't want to staff it because I wanted to see what happened. To seeing people are walking past and they go, oh, this is cool. What's this? And they press the button to start and they stand back and they're like, there's a silhouette on the screen which tells them what to do. So they put their hand up, starts the arrow. And I wanted to see if they did that. To me, it's obvious, but yeah, and most people are doing it. So but then the add to cart wasn't as intuitive. So we're doing stuff with the add to cart button. And yeah, we're learning a lot just from observation, I would say, more than data itself at this stage.
I guess once the UI is a little bit more stable and a little bit, but you're in complete, very early, I wouldn't even say beta, it's alpha at this stage, but it's production alpha. And so the reality is that you'll eventually get to beta and then you'll officially get to your V1 release. And then the UI will be a little bit more stable at that point, and then the data will mean a little bit more because it'll be deployed across a lot more experiences. And instead of just one smart mirror, it'll be deployed across 20 and then 50 and 5,000 and all those things. And so over the air update piece, I think is going to be critical. And eventually, obviously, even being able to, because you've got the AR camera there, but even being able to just literally record their experiences and making sure that it's very transparent that, hey, we're going to be recording this for usability purposes and just for privacy. And there's just lots of things that go into this, right? There's compliance stuff. There's a million things for you to consider. And I get that. But I guess getting something out there, shipping, as we like to call it in our industry, shipping something and getting it into production and getting the feedback loop kicked off is like the most important thing. We can pontificate all we like about what might or might not work, but until it's actually in the hands of the consumer, we genuinely have no bloody idea.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And I say that too a lot. Like, we think we know how people are going to use it, but we don't know. We have no idea. And I think that's where, I guess that's what I hope that I'm bringing to the table with this project, that I can see it in the tech. The tech guys will say, here's a list of enhancements that are coming your way. And I'm like, they're cool, but
does it matter?
Does it matter? These things are so like, I want to know if the customer can actually use it first, not so much how we refine this or refine that, or definitely the priorities. It's just the nature of the beast, right? The tech guys go, this is all the stuff that's cool that we can do. And yeah, that's what we can do, but this is what's important. And they're like, oh, but that's really hard. I don't care. That's the most important thing. Fix the hard thing, regardless of how hard it is. That's more important. I think that's where, like you said, the real life feedback was really important to me, to just get it up there, get it out. We'll figure it out as we go. We'll make the tweaks. We'll look at how customers are using it, and we'll approach it that way, which is why I've got the tech lead here, and the tech team was working on it as we go. So I've got the tech lead actually watching as well. So he's observing with me, so he can see where we can talk about it.
He's exercising his empathy gene as well, which is, I think that's just such a critical part of what we do. If you can build the empathy side of the business, and sometimes tech people, not always, but sometimes tech people, they're divorced from reality to a degree, and they almost have to be in order to be able to head down, bum up, focus on what they're building. But getting them exposed to and that's why when I was working agency side and running agencies and building agencies, when I was doing discovery and things like that, I would occasionally bring like a tech lead or a dev into part of a discovery, maybe not the full 2 days of discovery, part of a discovery, just so they can better understand, the types of questions I was asking and the kind of feedback and answers I was getting back, but just to help them get a deeper sense of empathy for the challenges retailers are facing and how they think they need to deal with them, and how that might not marry completely seamlessly with how we think it should be technically dealt with or technically resolved.
100%.
And so there's just such a massive disconnect there. And I think that anybody who can spend more time with the merchant or the end consumer, or ideally both, you get such a better 360-degree view of what's actually influencing the buying decision and ultimately what's influencing the success or failure of those businesses.
Yeah. And I think also it's somewhat stakeholder management in a way as well, like getting them to see it live and going, hey, look at that. Look how bad that is. You get them excited about it. They're excited. Oh yeah, let's fix that. And they get in and do it. Where if I just tell them, hey, do this and do that, they're like, oh, this bloody guy giving me another instruction and I got to go do it. You know what I mean? And I think it does make a difference, especially when you're trying. It is hard to communicate with developers sometimes. We speak different languages.
Completely different. They're aliens, man. They're the best form of alien. They're the best form of alien. And I got that term alien from a developer who told me, he said, don't ever think, because I'm very technical. So I speak, I'm not a developer, but I speak the language of developers. I speak the language of APIs. I can run my own Postman tests and everything else. So I'm pretty technical for a non-developer. So I do understand them better than most. But he said, don't ever think that you are truly speaking the same language. Yes, we can understand you and all that sort of stuff, but we are, think of us more like an alien species than you, right? Because we think a different way. We approach problem solving in a different way. Everything we do is quite different to the way, say, for example, a business analyst or a solution architect would typically approach things. We're already solutioning in our mind, but we're not solutioning from a business process perspective. We're already starting to solution from a code perspective. And that, I guess, that insight into how they really, truly think was so eye-opening for me. And it's really helped me to relate to developers better over time.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a business analyst by trade as well, so I do have a little bit of a technical background as well. But yeah, it's been certainly very interesting looking at that and getting them involved in the process. Certainly I felt has been pretty good because, especially when I'm trying to get them to prioritize and, hey guys, we know this is important. These are the top 5 things. These other enhancements that you wanted to put in, don't even worry about those for now. Not even important. Great ideas, super cool functionality.
Let's keep it on the backlog, but
should a customer, these are the top 5, let's focus on those, and then they get that from being there. So I think that's working quite well.
And what's next for you guys? Obviously, you're still in testing mode on your own smart mirror and you're refining it and you're getting it to a place of almost like a V1 product that can actually be sold in market. Is it your goal to maybe be to that V1 state by Christmas kind of thing? Because obviously this is like peak season. And then are you thinking, hey, we might actually have a product to go to market with by early next year, early 2024, and then whatever we do from that is hazy?
Yeah, it's probably already hazy to be honest, but getting for me, it's getting through Halloween with the current iteration or making, changes to it to get a good result from Halloween, and also to get some good data on how people are using it, all that stuff that may take a little longer to develop solutions for. But I'm already having conversations with retailers, not just here in Australia, but globally, about the application with costumes, but also the application with fashion and toys as 2 sort of key areas of interest. Like fashion is the obvious one because people try on clothes and this seems like it'll have a place there. But toys was the interesting one that fell out of nowhere because, it's working well for costumes and the toy brands are all about building their brands and interaction with their brand. And they're looking and going, look, I won't mention the name, but I can be this really cool pink character and then they can go and buy the toy and they can change the clothes that pink character wears. And I'll be like, that sounds so cool. Let's do that. And so we're having some conversations with toy brands around how we might apply it to toys. And I think there's a lot of applications. So where's next? Look, I don't even know. There's just so much on the boil that's come out of this that I've really got to sit down after this and look at the priorities and figure out where we're actually going to approach, where are the likely use cases that are going to fall out that are going to convert and we'll move forward with. So look, I think most likely we'll come out of this with another couple of pilots of some kind. And I don't know exactly where they're going to be. And it's just, I've got to sort through it's a good problem to have. I've got a lot of leads and stuff that have come into my inbox about it and just sorting through that and prioritizing it to figure out where that's going to go. And I've still got to keep running the party business in the background.
Of course. Yeah.
I'm not sure what's going to happen there.
That's so good. It's a good problem to have, right? And how do you deal with the 3D imaging? Are you using Gen AI at the moment to generate the 3D images that are required? Or are you just taking effectively static, flat 2D images that you might have of a given product as a starting point? Are you thinking Gen AI might need to be in the future for some of the imagery, for some of this stuff to get it to the next level? Well, kind of where's your head at around the catalog sync aspect of things and bringing things to life visually?
Yeah, at the moment, it's a very time-consuming process, and it is only using 2D images. And then it is a messy process at the moment that needs improvement because they're using those images. We offshore that, then they build it on that, and then they might give it back to us, and we might be going, "Look, Superman has a puffy chest," or whatever it is. And so then there's feedback because they don't actually have the physical costume to do it properly. But yeah, I think AI is where it's going for sure. Getting more involved with the AI and getting that to create the costumes from more detailed imagery, working with the manufacturers and their designs. Because I only get a 2D image and that's it at the moment. And that's what we're using, where it'd be great to get the actual 3D model from the manufacturer they've used to create the item and then use that to think. And then it goes for fashion as well, same thing. Because with the 2D image, like I was talking to the developers the other day, they build it based on what they see and then they continue the pattern around the back as best as they can. The AI is 3D, so you can turn around and see the back, but they've had to guess what the back looks like. They've had to guess how the collar goes or whatever it is that they can't see. There's all that sort of stuff. How does the mask look at the back? The mask may just finish here
on the sides of the head,
which most of them do, but they've done it all the way around the back. And no, that's not right. Yeah, I do think we want to get more just AI, partner more with the person doing the manufacturing of the item and then translate that through. But for now, Asian BP, let's just get something up and get it going.
Get trialed. And hey, look, if it increases return rates a little bit because it doesn't turn out to be exactly as it was envisaged to be, you got to, what is it they say? You got to break eggs to make a cake or something like that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we're going to learn. We've taken this on board as a learning experience. We haven't looked at this, we're going to make money straight off the bat. That hasn't been the approach. Let's learn how this uses and let's see where it goes from there. That's with any innovation. We were talking earlier in the chat about low barrier to entry. I do speak a little bit about when to be an early adapter or when to be an early adopter and when to be a late adapter. And there are scenarios where being late is the best strategy.
Yeah.
But with something like this, we're just like, let's just dip our toe in. We've been able to create the situation where it's a low barrier to entry. Let's give it a go and let's see where it falls out. So that's pretty much where we're at the moment. It's just, let's dip our toe in and let's see what falls out of it and reassess once we've got past the pilot.
Makes sense. And are you is your vision to ultimately create a completely separate company that just does this, or are you nesting it almost as a subsidiary underneath your existing business, or kind of from a commercial model perspective? Obviously, you probably haven't thought about what the commercial model necessarily is going to look like once it makes it to the hands of other retailers. I know this is really early days.
Yeah. I'm getting asked questions about cost and model and
no. I know that this is way too early to be at that stage, but do you have even any kind of early vision that you think, hey, actually, this probably needs to sit underneath its own company? It needs to maybe like a retail tech company where it can be effectively a holding company for this retail tech and then any other retail tech that we develop off the backside of this, and where we need to have a dedicated business that just is focused on this.
Yeah, it'll definitely be a separate entity. It already is. And I probably should say, I don't own the technology outright. We partners and we've got the group of us have got that JV going, which is what's created this current iteration of the technology. And yeah, we'll form a company with that group and that'll be separate. So I guess to some extent, I'll just be on the board of that technology. Where that goes and how that interacts with my current role at the Party People, I don't know. But we'll find out.
We'll find out probably by next year. It'll be more obvious.
Hopefully it blows up and I have a bit of a problem trying to pick which way I have to go. But at the moment, I don't have to make that choice.
Love it. And I was going to say, if people want to contact you and talk to you about this and everything else, how are they best to do it? But it feels like this is still probably a little bit too early, maybe early next year when you can start to breathe again after Halloween and the holidays and everything else. Maybe that'll be a better time for people to reach out to you. But if they want to have a yarn to you, are they best to simply go and I'll put the link to your website in the show notes, and I'll put the link to your LinkedIn profile in the show notes. But if people want to just have a brief chat to you about it, best to email, LinkedIn, come through your website. How would you like people to get hold of you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is the best way. And I would say when you add me on LinkedIn, make sure you say why you've added me, put the note there that this is why I'm connecting with you. I just get a lot of LinkedIn requests and you get a lot of sales pitches and stuff like that. So do put in the notes why you're connecting with me. That'd be great. So I'd say LinkedIn is the best one. Feel free to comment on the posts that I do there. The last few posts have been about the mirror, so you'll be able to see the mirror in action. I don't know if you've seen the latest one, but that's a little better, and there'll be another one dropping soon that's a little better again, which takes people through the exact process in terms of how it works. But yeah, I think jumping onto those posts, commenting or sending me a direct message on LinkedIn is the best way to do it. But yeah, I appreciate that. If you put up the Party People, there are plenty other ways to get to me.
Of course. Yeah. We're now at the point of our conversation where we're getting winded down to the end, and it's now my opportunity to flip the script and hand the microphone over to you. You ask me one question, any question you like, can be personal or professional. So Dean Salakas from the Party People, what is your question for me today?
Oh, I didn't prep for this. Was I supposed to prep for it?
No, it's off the cuff, man. This whole conversation has been off the cuff.
Yeah, I guess one thing I've been thinking of, the technologies that have followed similar life cycle to this. Have you seen anything that has followed? Because that's one thing I'm starting to think about. It's going to follow a product life cycle. It's going to be early adopters, and then you're going to have the It should follow that life cycle. Have you seen anything that's followed a similar life cycle? And is there any advice you could give me about how to maximize that?
Yeah, the challenge here is that a lot of these hardware plays have fallen flat on their face post-COVID, from Peloton to Lululemon shutting down the mirror to I guess the industry is littered with technology that was hardware-based technology that kind of fell by the wayside pretty quickly. And the cell phone has truly become the remote control of our lives, to where most VR and AR experiences are mediated through a smartphone now. And that's become kind of the hardware du jour of most AR experiences. And so I think that you're pretty groundbreaking in the sense that I haven't, apart from the odd McDonald's kiosk and a couple of the normal kiosk experiences that I'm seeing in retail, there hasn't really been anything like what you guys are doing yet that I've gone, or at least that I've seen anyway. And look, I've traveled quite a bit now through the United States and Mexico, and through some pretty big malls. I spent quite a bit of time in the Santa Fe Mall in Mexico City, which is the most upmarket and largest and most upmarket mall in Mexico City. And I never saw anything like this. And they had every top luxury brand in the world in that mall. And so definitely what you're doing is extremely groundbreaking. But I think that my only thinking on this is that if you continue to watch user interaction as closely as you are, it's automatically going to be a winner, because you're taking like that real-time feedback and you're iterating so quickly that anything somebody had a problem with, a severe issue with the day before, is probably not going to have that problem the next day. And I think it's that rate of feedback loop that you have to have. It's just as bad with a software product, but because of the usual update life cycle associated with physical products, it's usually much, much harder to do that update cycle quickly, right? Whereas with a pure software product, like a pure e-commerce website, usually within a week you can squish 20 bugs, you know what I mean? And you're off to the races. With a physical product, usually those update cycles are a lot longer. And so the fact that you are doing such intense user monitoring and research means that your iteration lifecycle, like, it's totally unsustainable. You can't do that forever, but certainly for the first, say, 6 months, that means that your iterations are going to happen so quickly that the product 6 months from now will look, probably in many respects, nothing like it does today. It will look significantly better. And I would say that you're absolutely on the right path based on what I've seen work and not work that well in the market. And I'm super impressed with kind of your ability to team build and to create consensus is probably your superpower. It's not the tech. It's how can we bring experts together to actually, because what your hardware is, it's not just a piece of hardware, it's an ecosystem. It's an ecosystem that delivers the promise of what that hardware tells you you're going to get. And so I think it's your ability to build that ecosystem that has given you the superpower. And I would say just continue to lean into that, because that's where all your success is going to truly come from.
Yeah, I like to hope so. I think definitely was at a talk recently, and they were talking about whether technology should be consumer-led or technology-led. And everyone on the panel said, oh, it has to be consumer-led. And I was thinking, why technology is technology-led here? But the difference is, like you mentioned, I'd use the technology as I've got, hey, here's a great idea, let's do it. But then from there onwards, definitely very much customer-led from here, which is why I would disagree with what every panel member said now, because I'm going, no, it can be technology. Technology can be, you can lead with technology. Sometimes people don't know that they need before it exists.
Or even what they're going to enjoy.
What they can enjoy or how they're going to use it. But yeah, from here on now, it's okay, here's something we're going to do. And let's let the customer tell us how it's going to evolve. Let's let the customer lead it. Or let's watch the customer. I learned that through COVID. It's funny. We talk about us retailers knowing our customer. And then this is a whole nother conversation, which we won't go into. We went from being 98%, 92% down to beating prior year within a couple of weeks through COVID. And that was purely done from just, we were down so much. I went out on the floor and asked customers what they were buying and why. And we found our customers were buying things to do in lockdown, things to baking. They were buying stuff like that. And we pivoted and focused on those categories. And so I think, yeah, it's so important to get customer feedback. I think that's one thing we talk about and take away from this podcast would be get that customer feedback and use it. And it's easier said than done. Everyone's probably collecting some form of feedback, but actually using that data and making meaningful change is the hard part.
Operationalizing the data. If otherwise it's meaningless, right? No, I couldn't agree with you more. Dean, look, I've thoroughly enjoyed myself. An hour has raced by. I cannot wait to speak with you again. And look, I'm super proud of you, and I'm super proud of what you've done and what you've built. And I cannot wait to see where this platform technology goes over the next 6 months, because it's going to be a rocket ship ride, I am sure. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
No, thanks for having me, Jason. Really good to chat to you.
Are you a B2B or D2C e-commerce merchant? Then head over to greenwoodconsulting.net to learn how we can help you scale your business.